Well, hello. This is Best Available Podcast, episode 30. 30 weeks. Well, I guess really technically not 30 weeks because we've done a couple double episodes, but still we've done 30 episodes of this, which is pretty cool. It is February 22nd. I think this is going to be the last episode we do in February, and it is. So the next time we record a podcast, it will be March. So we're almost 2 months through 2021, which seems really weird to say. Got a really fun show coming up. We're going to start with Pops My Tarts, but before we get into that, Matt, it snowed again, but I'm going to say it right now. I'm coming out against the snow. I've had enough. I think it's over. I've seen the weather forecast. We're going to get some 50s, maybe some 60s in a week or two, but I'm coming out against the snow. It's too much. The shoveling, everything, it's over. I'm ready for warmer temp. I don't even need warmer temperatures. Just give me some 40s and some sun. I'll be happy.
Well, you're the one, Ryan, who ridiculed me last week for getting out ahead of this and saying I'm anti-snow now. This is ridiculous. Back in December, I want everyone to know, if they want to go back and listen to it, you and I were so excited about the snow because the past couple of years, we haven't gotten anything. And I said, Ryan, me, I'm like, it's a warmer earth now. But sure enough, we got all this snow. So we must have got our Christmas wish and more, because not only did we get the one in December, but we must have had 3 or 4 snowstorms in the past 2 weeks alone. I'm sick of it. You're right, Ryan. We're going to go into the 50s this week. Someone who I work with is down in Florida right now in the G League bubble, and they said, how's the weather up there? And I'm like, you know what you were getting into when you asked that question. It was snowing that day, ironically. But yeah, I'm done. The shoveling sucks. I know I said I liked it. I don't anymore. I almost slipped on ice the other day. My dad slipped on ice. It's just I hate this winter. So here comes March.
We're excited for that Best Available Podcast book club update. So the book I have started reading is called Our Band Could Be Your Life, Scenes from the American Indie Underground 1981 to 1991. It almost seems like something, Matt, I would read in like a Ferg class back in Monmouth. It's that type of book. I'm through a chapter. I learned about the band Black Flag. I knew the name. I didn't know anything about them. It's actually pretty cool. So I will give another update because I am on page 61, and there are 500 pages in the book. So I have a long ways to go. Fun fact, we have some book-related content coming to a Best Available Player website near you pretty soon, which we're very excited about. We'll give more information on when that comes along. But Matt, just to tease it a little bit, I think that these will be some of the best articles on the site when this segment eventually starts.
Well, definitely, if there's anyone that I would ask to do a monthly book review segment, it's this person.
I'm excited. When you texted me, I was like, yes, come on. This is so exciting.
I actually have the book I think that this person is going to do. I'm not going to say it on the air, but I've actually, I don't know. He said he was pretty mixed on this book. So we will see if he gives it a favorable review or not so much. But again, you could probably do some context clues if you go on our website and try and find this person. Is this person on our About page or no?
I don't want to say anything because it makes it too easy. So
that's true.
This person might be on the page. They might not. They might be a new writer. They might be someone we've had before. You just have to wait and see. But we're very excited. The way this was described to me, this person is going to review one book a month on our website, and I cannot be any more excited. I cannot wait to read it. This person has turned in several enticing articles to us throughout the months, and I'm ecstatic to see what this person comes up with for this segment. So stay tuned. Matt, so last week we kind of went all over the place with sports that we don't talk about a lot. Actually, hold on. I'm sorry. I said we were going to start with Pops My Tarts because I always forget about that. I always forget to put that in the description even if we talk about it. So we're just going to start right now. So I do have something that pops my tarts. Matt, do you have anything in the past week that you've thought of that pops your tarts?
Yeah, I hate salt. Like
Ooh.
rock salt, not like cooking salt, like the salt you put on the ground. I guess it's the same thing, but in any case, this is Matt Discovers Salt segment. I hate it because it gets all in my shoes, ruins at least one pair of shoes for me every single year. Gets in your car, you got to vacuum your car, gets on like the little welcome mat that you have inside your house, you got to vacuum that. And then if somebody doesn't take off their shoes, they track it all in the house. So I hate salt in the winter, Ryan. It's everywhere. It's like the winter sand. That's what it is.
That's a great analogy. It hasn't been everywhere for like the past year and a half, but now suddenly we just have to use it every other day this year. So that's been an adjustment. We had to go out, my family. We ran out of salt. We had a nice selection that had lasted us a while, but because of the weather this year, we had to get a new bulky bag. So that it's just you can't have enough. I agree with you. It's very annoying. You step on it. I agree. It's just all over the place. It's very annoying.
Especially in the parking lots, too, when they just put an unnecessary amount of it. And I get they're trying to avoid a lawsuit, but, like, at the same time, I feel like I'm stepping on just rocks at that point. But my dad has he has, like, a giant, like a trash can that he had for the longest time filled to the brim with salt. And we ran out, too. He has went through his entire dad's supply of salt. So we got to hit up the good old Lowe's or the Home Depot, make sure we're stocked up. But yeah, salt sucks. Salt is very good when you cook with it. And it does prevent ice in the winter, but annoying.
Well, hopefully we won't have to see it again. As I said, the next time we do this podcast is in March, so the spring season is coming. Of course, New Jersey in March, you never know what you're going to get. You can get some 70-degree days. You can get some significant snowstorms. It can kind of go all over the place, so I'm not going to get my hopes up yet. But seeing all the spring training footage, it just really makes me want, as I said, I don't need 60s. Just give me some nice mid-40s I'd be fine with. I'm fine with the little small increments. Daylight savings time's coming up too. I just realized that. I am not a fan of that. I hate that.
Oh, here we go. Why? What's wrong with daylight savings time?
It's just it just exists to just mess up your entire day and then that entire week. It's not necessary.
I hate the one in November. This is the one that I love because then it starts getting dark at 7:00, and then you're like, wow. It's actually light out for, like, most of the day. And especially for, like, people our age, Ryan, who wake up a little later and then will stay up later. Like, if in the winter, when we wake up a little later on in the morning, we only get, like, 4 or 5 hours of daylight. Now, when we wake up, we get a lot more hours of daylight because it gets dark at 7:00. So this is the one that we should be celebrating. Yes, we lose an hour of sleep, but we gain so much more daylight for activities.
We'll save this because we will do a podcast the day after daylight savings time. So maybe by then my stance will change. Probably not, but we'll see. That's not what pops my tarts today, though. I want to make that perfectly clear. I have something else. What pops my tarts this week is electronics. So I had been researching computer parts for a new PC that I'm going to build. And it was weird. As I began doing more research on those parts, my computer started to act up a little bit. It started to go a little slower. It started to do things it wasn't doing before. So I was like, it kind of knows. Well, on Saturday, I made the purchase. I purchased all the parts that I needed. Well, what do you know? I had multiple instances hours after that where my computer blue screened and shut down and restarted on its own. It was really weird. I had no issues with the thing for the longest time, but as soon as I clicked purchase parts, I think it knows. I think these parts in this thing know that I'm trying to replace them, and they don't want to be replaced. But that's my electronics is my thing this week. I feel like a boomer saying that I don't like electronics, but that's what pops my tarts this week.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a big purchase for you. You've been talking about it for a long time. I saw the tweet. I was very excited for you. I don't like electronics either. I tried to understand the inner workings of VPN a couple weeks ago. That was fun. So I had the VPN into a laptop or something. That was confusing initially. So I do feel like I have regressed since my younger years in terms of technological intelligence. So I agree. I mean, I'm not. You are more on. You have a war with technology in terms of monetary reasons. I have a war with technology in terms of just not being able to understand it. So Ryan's my IT guy, but he had his own battle. So I could see why that pops your tarts.
The next time we record this podcast, knock on wood, this will be different. So I'm excited
You're
for
gonna
that.
build it? Yeah. They come that quickly? And you
I'm
build
surprised,
it that quickly?
yeah. So, I mean, I just picked the regular shipping option. I didn't know when the stuff would arrive, but I have one package coming tomorrow. Or by the time you listen to this, I have a package coming today, 2 packages coming Wednesday. I have 1 or 2 on Thursday, and then hopefully the last one will come Thursday or Friday. That's it. That's everything I need, and then I can start assembling it Friday or Saturday. Knock on wood, in the mail, we spent some issues, some big issues, but hopefully by the time we record our next podcast episode on Monday, I'll be able to showcase my new unit there.
Are you gonna do what Stewie and Brian did to the Bird is the Word record with your old PC? Or are you gonna take like a hammer to it and do like a slow-mo like stomping of it, smashing of it?
I'm actually going to give it to my parents. I've been getting on them for years because they have an older PC. Like I want to say 2009 or 2010. I've been getting on them for a couple of years. Like, you really ought to, it doesn't cost a lot. You really ought to upgrade it a little bit because it's slow. The computer they have, like sometimes I have to go on it and do like just a couple things, like print something out. It's a hassle. So I'm going to give them this PC because this, for my purposes, this isn't great anymore. But for their purposes, just, surfing the web and doing some basic things, this is far beyond what they need. So we're going to do a little switcheroo. We're going to move this to their office. I'm going to build my own, and that's, you don't want to waste things here. That'll be exciting.
So are you gonna do the slow-mo smashing of the 2009 one? I just need to see something break here. That's what I need to see.
Possibly. Yeah, that's
because
we could do that because there's nothing in that computer that we can really save. I mean, the hard drive, but other than that, so yeah, possibly. I may also do a video for the Best Available Player YouTube channel. Building my PC, I haven't decided yet, but it'll be fun. I've said it before to people, just like Legos. It's just like putting together Legos. It's just the pieces of the Lego set are expensive, and you don't want to mess them up.
Lego sets are expensive in their own.
That's true. Yeah,
if anyone can't really see in the background, if you're watching on the video version, right underneath my Celtics banner is kind of blocked by the microphone is a Lego Death Star. My crowning achievement in my life is not graduating college. It's building the Lego Death Star. My mom will be proud to hear that. That's expensive. Legos are the Death Star is like $500, so they're expensive too. So I feel your pain in terms of expensive parts, for sure. And somewhere Glenn Denegris is judging me for spending multiple hundreds of dollars on a Lego Death Star. Somewhere him or Zach or somebody's going to text me and roast me for it, but I'm ready.
Well, Glenn is judging me too because he has his preconceived bias against people with the keyboards and the light up. So he's judging me too. So we're both getting judged together, which is nice. And because we're being judged, we're not going to do Disney Plus and Glenn this week. So maybe next week. Let's move on to sports. How's that sound? We're going to start with tennis. This is now the second time in 2 weeks, I think, we're talking about tennis. Yeah, because we talked about Andre Agassi last week, and we're going to talk about the Australian Open today. So the finals were just this past weekend, and the winners on the women's side, it was Naomi Osaka, the 3 seed. On the men's side, it was the number 1 seed, Novak Djokovic. So I want to start on the women's side because that got, I'd say probably more attention than the men's side from what I could tell, mainly because of the semifinal matchup between Osaka and Serena, which is to be expected. Of course, you have one of what seems to be the next big things in Osaka, who's been very successful. This was her 4th title in 4 attempts. So she's 4 for 4 in the Grand Slams, which I think is pretty interesting. I didn't know that until I looked at her stats against one of the greatest of all time, regardless of sports, Serena Williams. So even I want to go further back than that to the quarterfinals of the women's. So Jennifer Brady won her matchup, but the 1 and 2 seeds were upset. Matt, you had Simona Halep, the number 2 seed. She went up against Serena, and Serena took care of her pretty handily, 6-3, 6-3 in 2 sets. And then in the matchup with the 1 seed, Ash Barty, she lost in 3 sets to the 25 seed, Karolina Muchova, and it was weird because she had she won the first set 6-1, and then Muchova won the next 2 sets 6-3, 6-2. So that kind of set up the semifinals where Brady defeated Muchova, Osaka defeated Serena, and then Osaka won in the finals over Brady 6-4, 6-3. I caught a little bit of it. I'm not going to say that I watched the entire thing. Just it's on Australia, but I did watch some highlights. I watched a little bit here and there throughout the event. I thought the women's side was really entertaining. There were a lot of good matches. It was really nice to be able to watch Osaka. It's fun to watch Naomi Osaka. She is really fun to, her matches, they're always they're always entertaining. She's kind of reached that point where if she's on your television, you just have to stop and watch. So as I said, she seems like she's going to be the next big thing. I know tennis is big mental thing, but it seems like she has everything it takes to kind of be the next big star in tennis. I mean, she kind of is already. I don't want to say seems like, but.
Well, she is the star of tennis right now. I think outside of Serena, she's got to be one of, if not the most recognizable figures in women's tennis, right? I mean, I do want to preface this by saying I did not watch this tournament. It's on at 3 a.m. I'm sorry. I caught the highlights when I could. I've told this to Ryan before. I watched the U.S. Open because it's on our time, and it's just easier for me to catch some matches. Even Wimbledon, it's earlier in the morning. It's just a lot easier in our time zone. So I want to preface by saying that. But you mentioned, I want to touch on one thing you said about Serena. But Osaka, listen, I mean, it's just like business for her. She just goes in and is very efficient, very, very clean and easy wins for her, right? And I mean, listen, again, we have tennis experts. I am not one of them. So I'm just from the casual side of it. I'm also very familiar with Osaka just because she is a huge fan of the WNBA, and I watch a lot of that, obviously. So she works hand in hand with a lot of their players as well. But I love watching her play, right? She's going to turn into the next Serena in terms of, as you said, if she's on, you got to stop and watch. And then you said Serena knocked off one of the top 2 seeds, right? You could correct me if I'm wrong. That's not an upset. You can't be upset by Serena Williams, in my opinion, because she's the best of all time. So no matter what the numeric seeding of it is, if she's a lower seed and she knocks off the number 1 player in a tournament, doesn't matter to me. That's like saying, if Peyton Manning, if he upset somebody in the Super Bowl, if he upset Seattle, it's not an upset to me because he's one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in our lifetime. So it's the same thing for Serena. I didn't like the tweets and the articles saying, "Is this is this it for Serena?" No, it's not. Sorry, just one loss in the semifinals of a Grand Slam doesn't mean you're done. So that's Matt's take on tennis.
I mean, it's not just a Serena thing. We hear this a lot whenever an athlete crosses a certain age. But I agree. Like it has become a big thing with Serena, to the point where I think somebody asked her in a press conference about retirement, and she couldn't answer the question because she got emotional about it. Like she's still one of the best players today. And Matt, you said she's one of the best of all time. She's still one of the best, obviously. And I agree. I think you make a good point. Even if she is a lower seed, it's hard to call it an upset just because of how much talent she has. But going back to last week when we talked about Agassi, he went through the same thing when he started getting up there in age. Everyone just kind of pestered him about retirement this, retirement that. When are you going to be done? Will you know it, this and that? I think it's never going to happen, especially nowadays with the sports media landscape, but I think we need to just start to appreciate what we have in front of us and not worry about when it's going to be over. Just appreciate it while it's going on. That's it. It doesn't have to be this big thing.
You know what it's like? It's like Tiger Woods. It's the same thing. When he started getting the back problems and wasn't playing full years on the PGA Tour, it's the same thing. People were kind of rooting for the end of Tiger Woods and for the longest time. And then sure enough, a couple years ago, he went out and won at Augusta, and all of us were sitting there cheering. And it's the same thing with Serena, right? I mean, every time she's out there and has a chance to win, we're all sitting there and cheering. So I agree in the sense that we just got to appreciate what we have. People do that all the time with Tom Brady. Anybody that's at the top of their game. I think LeBron is getting to that point too where people are just kind of saying, oh, is LeBron done? Meanwhile, LeBron wins another final. And Serena, again, lost in the semifinals of the Australian Open. That doesn't mean she's done. She had to win. How many matches to get there? Like 4 or 5? In a pandemic-filled world. I feel like Australia has done a better job than we have. But in a pandemic-filled world, right? Not consistency on the court, and she went out there and played really well. So, headline's got to stop. I love Serena Williams.
Her coach came out and said that he doesn't think that she'll retire until she at least wins a Grand Slam because she came back to win Grand Slams. So just, I feel like her coach probably knows more than all these media analysts and all these people on social media that think that just because she's 39, it means that she has to retire. She can be around for as long as she wants to be, I think is the point. So just enjoy her while we can still watch her. She's one of the greatest athletes we're ever going to see in our lifetime. So let's just enjoy the greatness. That's all my request. On the men's side, I don't want to say it didn't get as much attention. At least from what I saw, though, the women's did get a little more. Djokovic, as I said, won in the finals in 3 sets over Daniil Medvedev, 7-5, 6-2, 6-2. So the first set was close. The next 2 sets weren't really all that impressive. But I think number one, I think Medvedev's path to the finals was actually pretty interesting. So he had to go up against Stefanos Tsitsipas, the Greek tennis player who downed Nadal. Now, I would say this is kind of an upset. This is obviously an upset. Nadal was up 6-3, 6-2 the first 2 sets, but then Tsitsipas railed off 3 consecutive sets, and he won in 5. It was a heck of a match. I caught the highlights. I didn't see it when it happened, but still really fun. Djokovic really didn't have a lot of issues throughout. Tsitsipas obviously fell to Medvedev in 3 sets. Maybe he was just a little winded from his 5-set victory over Nadal. I don't know, but I think what Djokovic did was really impressive because he was playing through an injury. A lot of people said that he was faking it throughout the tournament, but he was playing through an oblique tear. And I think initially, I'm trying to find the statistic because I thought it was incredible. I know I wouldn't be able to do it. So he tore his oblique. against Taylor Fritz, and at that point it was 1.7 millimeters. After the finals against Medvedev, it lengthened to 25 millimeters. So say what you want about Djokovic. I know he has his fair share of detractors for a lot of different reasons, but to be able to play through that and still put up a dominating performance in the finals of a Grand Slam, I think that's very impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I will go out and say I'm not the biggest fan of him. When you compare him to the other two in the tennis's big three on the men's side, right? Him, Nadal, and Federer. He's probably number 3 on the list in terms of guys that I like and enjoy watching. But it's impressive what he's able to do, right? And it's a testament to what those 3 dudes are able to do on a yearly basis. It feels like every year, at least 2 of the 4 Grand Slams, one or both of them is winning it or is in the final. And I think that's a testament to what the 3 of them have done. Obviously, last year for Djokovic wasn't a very good one, right? He had everything that happened at the U.S. Open, all the COVID stuff he had over the summer didn't he get caught for like having an exhibition or something without masks? Or regardless, for him to go out there and prove that, he's still a dominant player and everything is cool to see. But again, I prefer Federer and Nadal compared to him. But yeah, I'm not the biggest Djokovic fan, so I'm not going to really say much.
Yeah, this was his 18th overall Grand Slam title, his 9th at the Australian Open, so he's really done well at this tournament over the years. This was, so he won the Australian Open in 2020 and then 2019, so he's now the back-to-back-to-back champion at the Australian Open. So, yeah, I agree. As I said, he has. There's a lot of reasons why people dislike him. He's also not one of my favorite kind of athletes because of some of his views, but impressive performance. Bias aside, he was very impressive considering what he was playing through. So that was talking tennis, Matt. We don't talk tennis a lot. You say you watch the U.S. Open. I try to watch the Grand Slams. As you say, the times for some of them are just, I don't know, especially the Australian Open. The French and the Wimbledon, they're not as bad, but it's a fun sport to watch when I have the opportunity. I'll say that. It's something that I wish I played when I was younger or could play now because it seems like a lot of fun. I regret not playing it.
I think for me, what I like about the U.S. Open a lot, I like it when there's people there. It's somewhere I want to go, post-pandemic world, somewhere it's on the bucket list for me. Obviously, all the tournaments have people at them, but I feel like the U.S. Open just has its own kind of attraction. At least that's just because, again, it's the one that I watch, like all the celebrities that are there, the fact that they have a lot of primetime matches, which are very easy for me to catch as well, as opposed to 7 in the morning in Wimbledon or 3 a.m. in Melbourne. But the dream scenario for me, Ryan, not this year because we're not going to be back to full packed stadiums next year. Serena and Federer winning the U.S. Open. That would be a dream for me because those are my 2 favorite tennis players. If we could get that to happen, then they both can, if they want to sail off into the sunset of retirement or cap off their career with a U.S. Open victory, boom. Win-win for everybody.
It's been a while since Roger won the U.S. Open. I think it was 2008. And I remember watching a video segment from his about him 2018, maybe? I don't know. It was somewhere around there. And he kind of said that he didn't think, it's... You just see these years keep passing by, kind of wondering when that next opportunity is going to come, and then eventually just it all goes away. So that would be nice to see him win another U.S. Open before he has to retire. But, it's hopefully he can get his health in check. He wasn't able to play this year in the Australian Open because he pulled out for health-related reasons. Hopefully he can get his injuries and his body right, and hopefully we'll see him at the big tournaments further down the road this year and into next year. He's another guy just like Serena. He'll play as long as he wants to play. He can play as long as he wants to play. He's 39 as well. So let's just enjoy it while we still have him here. It was crazy. I was going back to the Agassi book. Like Federer's mentioned in there towards the end. It's like, wow, that really puts things into perspective. Like Federer's been around for a long time. So,
well, that's another reason why I don't like Djokovic, because there's been a couple years in our older age, Ryan, where Djokovic has prevented Federer from either advancing to the final or winning the final. So that just added to it for me. But those are two of my favorite athletes, not even just tennis players. So talking tennis, Ryan, we got what, like 15, 20 minutes out of tennis? We got a
good amount.
Yeah.
I will say this. Your favorite is the U.S. Open. I think my favorite would probably be the French Open. I like the clay. I like how different every surface plays differently, but I like how different the clay surface plays. I like seeing the stains on people as you get through the match. I think that's probably my favorite, the French Open. So, yeah, as you said, talking tennis. That was fun. We kind of broke this down a lot in our last episode, the Emergency Wentz podcast, but Fernando Tatis signed a 14-year, $340 million contract. As you can tell, I'm being facetious because we slipped it in the last 5 seconds of the episode, but we thought it would make sense to actually give it some time of its own. We've talked about this a lot, how in our lifetime the Padres really haven't been, I won't even go so far as to say contenders. They really haven't been competitive for a lot of that. But it now seems like the culture's kind of turning around, and I think this really exemplifies it. The longest contract ever in Major League Baseball history at 14 years. To keep this guy who's only 22 years old. I texted in the group chat when whoever sent the alert, like, I can't even imagine what life's going to be like in 14 years. And this guy, he's signed until 2034, and he becomes a UFA after the 2034 season. Like that's hard to put into perspective. 14 years. I have to imagine it's hard to say. I have to imagine he'll be the type of guy that stays there all 14 years, but still, 14 years. That's a long time.
Well,
but he deserves it.
You and I will be approaching our 40s when that contract expires.
Oh, don't say that.
I'm pretty sure he will, too. I'm pretty sure he's right around our age, right?
Yeah. He'll be 35 when that contract is over. He's 22 right now.
All right, yes, he's a little bit younger than us. But in any case, you had to do it if you're San Diego, right? You had to do it. Because, as you said, they've been awful our entire life. Outside of, like, 2006 through 2008, maybe. Those years could be off. They made the playoffs like maybe one time in that span. They were in contention on the final day of the regular season, I think, in 2010. And they lost out to the Giants, who ended up winning that year, I think. Again, my years could be off, but that just shows how little they've been in the postseason. Obviously, they get in this past season. They beat the Cardinals, and then they get a really tough draw in the next round. They get a really tough draw in their division this year. On top of that, but if you ever want to compete with the Dodgers, Ryan, you have to do something like this. And I think Glenn mentioned it on Twitter. You love to see small market teams going for it. And he said that, I think it was him that said small market teams have the money, and San Diego obviously is willing to spend it. And I am encouraged, Ryan. I am encouraged that a team that is considered to be on the smaller side of a market is going out there, spending the money, saying we're going to go and commit to a long-term period of success and not just go in on one World Series and then strip it all down because you don't want to pay people. So I am encouraged by this.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you brought up what Glenn said about how small market teams have the money. Like, every team in Major League Baseball could keep their homegrown stars if they really wanted to. It's just a lot choose not to because the owners don't feel like opening the checkbooks. So I'm glad that San Diego is. I think it's also interesting, Matt, because of the way the contract is structured with Tatis's arbitration years and everything. He still is not going to be making a lot of money. So, like, for the very foreseeable future, San Diego, if they still want to spend money to bring in talent, like, this contract's not going to hamstring them for a while. So I mean, really even at all, because he's only making an annual average salary of $24 million. So, like, I think this is assuming he continues to perform like he is now and he continues that upward trajectory. I think this contract's going to look like a bargain eventually. Even when he is making $36 million a year, I still think that that's going to be worth way less than what he actually provides. But I am glad that I hope that this encourages, I know it won't, but I hope that it encourages more teams to just spend money to keep their young guys and not just have them hit free agency and go to big market teams. I'm not going to say any organizational names or players.
Yeah, nobody recently just did that with their young homegrown player.
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, not one that either of us like. But listen, it's really like it's not even like they were like the little brother to the Dodgers, right? Because the Giants won all those World Series in there. The Rockies have made the playoffs a couple. Even Arizona, they were just a forgotten team in this division. And it's also encouraging to go back to finish what you said, your last point with the contract. It's cool to see young stars get that you need to have space to sign other people, right? You don't want to just have all the money up front. Like, it's nice to have a young guy who has that foresight to be like, okay, like, I'll have a backloaded contract so that way we can still have flexibility with our window now kind of thing, which is really cool to see that kind of awareness. Glenn also brought up the point, what's it like to see a team spend all the millions of dollars that the Padres are on two positions in their infield? Meanwhile, Mookie Betts got traded because John Henry didn't want to pay him. So, haha, Glenn, good zinger there. But I don't know. It's going to be cool because the Padres in I don't know if you agree with this comparison. They were, for our lifetime, they're like the NL equivalent of the Mariners. I would maybe throw Pittsburgh in there, but even the Pirates made the playoffs once or twice when we were in high school. Like, this is a team that we have just not seen good at all. And small market teams, this shows you can do it. Actually, this shows the fans that it could be done. The money's there, as Glenn said. It probably won't happen, like you said. But it's cool to see a team other than the Dodgers and the Yankees stock up on a bunch of players. I'll even throw the Red Sox in that list too, in terms of the big teams.
We talk about all the time, media analysts, I want to make it clear, they always try to find that next team that's going to be competitive for the longest time. Well, I think more than anything, San Diego's kind of cemented themselves now as that team, especially now that they've locked Tatis up, because you have him and Machado locked up really long term. You have Trent Grisham, he's only 24. Jake Cronenworth had a really good year last year as a rookie. He's only 27. We talked about their starting rotation. You have three guys 28. Paddock's only 25. You have all of the younger pitchers in their system. You still have Mackenzie Gore down there. You still have Jacob Nix. You have Adrian Morejon. You have Michael Baez. You have all these. You go, like, this team is set to not only graduate a lot of their young players and like keep them all together for a long time, they have so much they can trade if they want to bring in another star. So if any team in any sport is going to be good for, I'd say, the next 5 to 10 years, this is my pick. I know baseball, it's so difficult, and especially with the team that they have in their own division that can just throw out $100 million contracts like it's nothing. This is the team that I think is going to just be the next potential, I don't want to say dynasty, but just next consistent competitor year in, year out.
Well, you went down that whole list, and you forgot to mention Mike Clevenger, right? You're going to get him back next year on top of Darvish and Snell, Lamet, Paddock. You wrote about him last year. He should bounce back a little bit this season.
I think he will, yeah.
Musgrove, Gore, as you said. I think you bring up a good point. The trade value in a lot of these guys, it gives you a lot of flexibility to where if you don't want to, stack the deck in free agency if you want to kind of have some flexibility at the deadline to go out and see what holes you need to fill, you have all the resources you need to go out there and do it. And that, I think, is the best kind of flexibility that you can have in baseball. I think the trade deadline for Major League Baseball is a lot more important than a lot of the other leagues. I don't know if you agree with that, but listen, you mentioned the Dodgers. It's kind of annoying that they're just taking literally everybody, but it's nice that they have a team within their own division that's going to make things a lot more interesting. It's not like they're going to run away with the NL West like they have the past decade. So it's nice to see. It's refreshing. I've said this multiple times. I'm sorry if I'm a broken record, but it's just nice. It's nice to see, especially a team like the Padres too, right? A really cool ballpark, somewhere where we can trip with the boys, go out there when they're still good and catch a game in San Diego. Like, the possibilities are endless. To have a team that's good in a warm weather climate, like everyone's going to go there and they're going to make a ton of money off of this. So it's a really good investment on their part.
So we've talked a lot about the Padres. Our full MLB preview is obviously coming up because the regular season is supposed to start in like a month. We'll see, but we will do a full MLB preview on Best Available Podcast. We'll split it up into a couple episodes probably, like we did with the NFL, but stay tuned for that because that'll be a lot of fun. We've talked about the Padres a lot this offseason. I mean, there's not really a lot of teams we could have talked about this offseason. A lot of teams just kind of did nothing or got worse. But as you said, it's refreshing to see teams actually want to spend money to field a competitive roster. So let's hope that in the future that continues. Probably not.
Well, remember, this isn't the first time they've done this. We talked about it the last time we talked about the Padres as a team overall. Remember, they got the Uptons, they got like Matt Kemp, right? They basically got every player that fell off the face of the earth after they went to San Diego. This was maybe our high school years, freshman year of college?
That was 2014. Yeah, because I remember I wrote an article about it. They won the offseason. Everyone said, they won the offseason. Watch out for the Padres, and it just didn't work out. But this is different. This isn't the same.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the talent level is just exponentially better. The flexibility, as we talked about, just everything's better this time around. Like BJ Upton and Justin Upton compared to, locking up Tatis long term, going out and getting all the pitching acquisitions that they did with Darvish and Snell. It's totally different. So watch us praise them and they flop again, but I don't think they will. They looked really good last year, but yeah, Ryan just knocked on wood. Yeah, I mean, I hope for our sake, I don't want to see another 108-win Dodger team run through the NL West. It's not exciting. So it'll be nice. It also sets up, too, sorry to cut you off, but one of these teams in this current playoff format, Ryan, one of these two teams is going to have to play in the wild card round, and then they're going to have to play each other in the divisional round. So we're not even going to get an NLCS between these two teams, right? Because that's how it's going to work. So we're going to get a 5-game series between these two teams, most likely, unless any other NL team wants to be a good wild card team. But it's going to be exciting.
And we'll talk about all that excitement, as I said, coming up soon. With spring training already in full force, the spring training games are going to be starting pretty soon. So we're going to be talking a lot about baseball over the next month or so. So if you're any baseball fans out there listening to this podcast, it's going to be your month. We're going to be talking about it a lot. Lake Tahoe, we have to bring this up. So this is another sport we don't talk about a lot, which is hockey. Not because we don't like it, it kind of just falls in and out of rotation. And when there's something worth talking about, we will. And this kind of seems like we need to talk about it. So for those of you that don't know, because I know hockey's still, I don't want to say a niche sport, but I know not everybody watches it like they watch other sports. The NHL had 4 teams travel to Lake Tahoe over the weekend to play a game. The Golden Knights and the Avalanche played on Saturday. The Bruins and the Flyers played on Sunday. And it was a made-for-TV event. They had the rink right on the golf course. You could see the picturesque lake and trees and mountains behind it. From a vantage point of view, it was a great idea, right? I mean, you had these great views. It was so beautiful. The one thing they forgot to take into account was that big yellow thing in the sky called the sun. And unfortunately, on Saturday, after the first period, there was about a 9-hour delay. They needed to wait until midnight Eastern time to resume the game, when all the light would go away and it was just darkness, which meant that the game on Sunday, which was going to be at 3, got moved to 2, then got moved to 7:30. It didn't start until 8. I say all that because I don't want that to dissuade the NHL from doing this again in the future. I think it would be really ideal if they explored other venues that weren't just baseball stadiums and football stadiums. I liked the idea of this event. In practice, it didn't work as they had hoped. In theory, though, it was a phenomenal idea. I know it's easy because you didn't have to worry about fans. You don't have to worry about lost revenue. But I really hope this doesn't dissuade them from trying it in the future, because it kind of brings hockey back to its roots, man. You have these people grow up playing on just ponds across the country, lakes across the country. This is what hockey's all about at the end of the day. You just play outside with your buddies. So I hope they try to do this again at these other venues. Like, venues like a golf course, or anywhere.
Well, I hate to be the other side of the argument here, but if it were up to them, they'd play in the giant stadium where they could sell out every single seat, like the big house in Michigan, right? All those people, 100,000 people or whatever it was. Listen, it's not good. Not good optics for that. Gary Bettman, I think, said something of, oh, well, it's sunny wherever the clouds aren't, or you think. Listen, I don't know whose idea it was to play a game in the middle of the day with that kind of sun out there, right? The sun is different at Fenway as opposed to at Lake Tahoe. Those are two totally different suns, regardless of the weather, regardless of the season. It's just brighter. I feel bad for the players having to squint to see, because the sun is reflecting off the ice on top of the lake that you're right next to. You probably couldn't see anything. So, listen, the Bruins got a nice win over the Flyers. That was cool. David Pastrnak was dancing the Barbie girl, apparently, after the game, after netting a hat trick. So, Ryan, your Flyers didn't look too good. But, yeah, I think they're going to go right back to the big stadiums, to your point. It's just a lot easier to do that.
We're not going to... Hold on. I can't just gloss over the point you just made. It does lead me into something that I wanted to talk about. Gary Bettman. I'm not going to say any bad words, but I'm not happy with Gary Bettman.
It was just not a good weekend.
The Flyers didn't look good. Number one, because their young goalie had one of the worst games of his career. He can't seem to figure out Boston. I don't know why. But the Flyers had one line last night filled with top 9 NHL forwards. The other 3 forward lines they had weren't very good. They had one line with 2 defensemen playing as forwards, which is usually not ideal. You don't want to do that typically. I know the one guy said he hadn't played forward since he was 9 or 10 years old. So that was good going into the game to hear that. The Flyers are in a position to fail. They didn't help themselves, but they were in a position to fail. Having said that, going back to Lake Tahoe, the ice, even when it was dark out, looked kind of iffy. The shadows, I don't know if you saw the first period of the game last night, Matt. The shadows were... We joke about afternoon shadows a lot when we did broadcasts, but the shadows on the ice were really bad. If I was a player, I commend them for playing through that in the first period, because I would not have been able to do it. having to worry about, is that shadow a player that's about to check me, or am I just seeing things? Is it from that tree that's over there? As you said, I don't know whose idea it was to play in the daytime over there. It wasn't a good one. I agree with you. The odds of them doing something like this ever again are, I'm not going to say zero, but they're like slightly above zero, like 0.00001% chance. I just hope they do. I don't know how they would do it, but just like find like a nice small rink in the middle of nowhere. Like that's what hockey is. You just go, you wait for the lake to freeze, you go out, you put a couple nets out on the lake, you play with your buddies for a few hours until it gets dark. That's what hockey is. I just wish they would go back to that just a little bit. I think the fans would love it.
The fans wouldn't be there to watch it. The whole point of sports is to bring in the fans, though. And yeah, here's my thing. Here's my thing.
Make it pay-per-view then. How's that sound? Make it pay-per-view, $10.
I agree that I would. No one's going to pay for that.
I would pay for that.
No, but no one's going to pay for a regular season game in any sport. I mean, outside of maybe the NFL, but
bring it back to its roots. If the MLB can do this thing, Field of Dreams, the NHL can find some small rink and have some fun.
So, I'm not the biggest fan of the outdoor games in big stadiums because I don't think hockey looks good in a baseball stadium. I'll say it. Watching it at like Fenway with all the weird dimensions, and I get that it's not zoomed out to where you can see it, but at the same time, if you're going to watch a game at Fenway, you would think it would be for baseball because that's where the vantage points and sight lines are for. So from a fan's perspective, it's not always, it's going to be very hit or miss. I'll never forget the one they did. I guess it was Dodger Stadium, Ryan. That one didn't make sense. I think they had Anaheim and like LA or somebody maybe play out there in the stadium series. Like, it's a cool concept. I like the Winter Classic, but when they start playing 4 or 5 stadium series games all around the country, it just kind of doesn't have the same punch to me. Like, just have the one, and that's good enough. So they're never going to do this again. I think it looked better, the games at Lake Tahoe, right? Wouldn't you agree? When it was at night, you get the up-close vantage point. You could really see everything. That I agree with, but I'm not the biggest fan of these to begin with.
Just go to Brian Freeman Park where like that roller hockey rink used to be. Just do it like right there. Just do a game right there would be perfect. I think that would be fun. Or just find a barn somewhere. I think that would be great. But yeah, as you said, listen, I agree with you. The odds of them doing something like this ever again, not very good. But
if they're ever going to do it, they're going to do it in Canada before they do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if they're ever going to do it again, they're going to do it somewhere, some famous lake, I don't know, some famous body of water in Canada. That's where it's going before it's coming back here.
I'm just going to have a moment of silence as my hope. Listen, as I said, I agree. It's probably never going to happen again, but I'm just going to hold a moment of silence for my hope being crushed that I can see something like that again. College hoops, we talked about if you're a baseball fan, you're going to love the month of March. Well, if you're a college hoops fan, you're going to love the month of March. That's going to be something we talk about a lot. This is now a weekly segment. The season is winding down very quickly. It feels like we just started talking about college hoops not that long ago, but it's almost time, Matt. We're going to knock on wood again. Hopefully nothing happens, but March Madness is almost here. Selection Sunday is less than a month away. Selection Sunday is actually Daylight Savings Day for those of you out there. So if that helps you know when it is, there it is. So as we do each week, Matt, I'm going to let you just say what's going on in the realm of college hoops. I've looked at Joe Lunardi's bracketology. I see that he has Gonzaga as the top overall seed. I think we can both agree on that. They've looked very good this year. He has UConn as the first team out. Stanford is the last team in. So just, you know what? Actually, I have the bracket up right now. So let me do this. Duke is making, I think this is probably the biggest storyline. Duke is now making a major run And at this point, it would be they might be in the tournament, right? Like I asked you a couple weeks ago, what does Duke need to do? Well, now they're making a run. So can they make the NCAA tournament?
Well, apparently we should never have had them out. I was listening to a couple college basketball experts throughout the day today saying, oh, shame on people who ever had Duke out of the bracket to begin with. They were bad for a majority of the year. And I would think they were on the outside. They weren't even in the conversation of the bubble until they went and beat Virginia on Saturday, who was the best team in the ACC. And we mentioned this as a weak ACC, but at the same time, Virginia grades out really well in basically every advanced metric. Duke looked pretty good without Jalen Johnson. Then they followed that up. So you're going to listen to this Tuesday at some point. So we're recording this Monday night. They just blew out Syracuse by 14 points at Cameron. So it's another win. They're going to be probably already in the field, Ryan. I don't think they're going to be on the bubble conversation just because it's the Duke pedigree. Do I agree with that? No. Do I think they're a good team? Not really. Can I see a scenario where they make a run in March? Absolutely. So I want to preface that by saying that I could see that very well happening. Syracuse has done that a couple times. Speaking of other ACC teams, right? We saw them with Malachi Richardson, a guy we're familiar with, make a run to the Final Four as an 11 seed. So if there's anyone that could coach him up and do it, it's Coach K. But I was really, really hoping, Ryan, that we would get some other teams in this year over some of the Blue Bloods, but Duke is really going to make it hard for me because, we have teams on the bubble. You mentioned like UConn, not even UConn, like Utah State, who got swept by Boise State. They're probably on the outside looking in unless they win the Mountain West now. Colorado State's another team on the bubble that I really hope gets in. They have really good guards. Even St. Bonaventure, like these smaller teams, and you and I have an appreciation for mid-major basketball because of where we went to college, but Duke's going to get into the tournament as like a non-exciting 10 seed maybe, or an 11 seed, and maybe win a couple games, but it's just not going to be as cool to see some of these other teams. St. Louis having a really good season with a really good team that had a lot of COVID layoffs. Yeah. To answer your point about Duke, is what I have to say about that. But bigger game, Ryan, number 3 versus number 4 yesterday, or 2 days ago, if you're listening on Tuesday, Ohio State and Michigan, two teams that I think are Final Four caliber teams. I think Michigan, they can lose, I think, multiple games and still win the Big Ten outright. And I think they'll be a number 1 seed regardless of what happens the rest of the season. Again, unless they lose every single game, which is not likely. But that's a really, really good win they had. And I think Michigan, they grade out really well offensively. They are one of the most efficient teams on that side of the ball. Juwan Howard has a really deep, experienced team on his hands. And Ohio State's really good too. They're basically the same exact thing as Michigan, except really good defensively as well. So we talked about the Big Ten last week. Illinois is right behind them at 5. Got Iowa at 9 in the most recent poll. So you got 4 teams in the top 10. I think Wisconsin might be hanging around in the top 25, but yeah, that was the game to pay attention to. The big storyline you mentioned was Duke, but Michigan and Ohio State, that was a Final Four caliber game.
They are both currently 1 seeds in the bracketology, along with Gonzaga and Baylor. I know things can change, but would you be surprised if those 4 teams weren't the 1 seeds when we hit Selection Sunday? Do you think anybody else is going to leapfrog? I'd say probably Ohio State or Michigan. I know nobody's going to leapfrog Gonzaga or Baylor, but can anybody leapfrog their way into a 1 seed, or is it probably going to be these 4 teams?
I think Illinois can. For Illinois, too, they would have to make a run, not only win the Big Ten tournament, in my opinion. They would have to win that, would also get a couple more wins down the stretch in the regular season. I think if it's one of those 4 teams that I mentioned, maybe not Iowa, but whoever wins the Big Ten tournament really solidifies himself at the top as a 1 seed. I think Alabama, maybe. I think they're probably the closest to it if they win the SEC tournament. But again, Ohio State and Michigan both, their resumes speak for themselves. So I would say those are the two teams, Ryan, that I think maybe could sneak in. We've seen in the past teams out of the Big East make a run at the Big East tournament and shoot up the lines in terms of seeding, but I think Villanova is going to stay. I think Iowa's going to stay. So, yeah.
We'll talk about, so obviously we're going to do a full bracket preview when it comes out on Selection Sunday, but let's just say hypothetically it stayed the same as it is right now. Everyone loves the 5-12 upset game each year. It seems to always happen. So, Matt, there's currently, you have Toledo, Western Kentucky, Belmont, and then a play-in game with Minnesota and St. Bonaventure. Which one of those teams currently slated as the 12 seed do you like the most to make some noise in the tournament?
I like all four of them.
I hate to do this to you. Can you pick one?
Well, I'll rule out Toledo. I don't think Toledo is necessarily a 12 seed in my opinion. I think they could be, but I said Western Kentucky in my bracket preview earlier in the month. Could be on the 8 or 9 line. They have NBA caliber players. I think they're really good in a surprisingly tough Conference USA this year. Belmont, though, Ryan, they've only lost one game all year, if my memory is correct. They're like 24-1 or some ridiculous record in a season where we've had so many shutdowns. They've been really consistent. I'll probably go with Belmont, honestly. We talked about them, I guess, last week or 2 weeks ago. You go from Rick Byrd to a new head coach, and they just keep on winning. They have a guy, Nick Muzinski, I think his name is, a big man who's really good down low. Let me pull up their roster so I get the names right. Muzinski, if people remember a couple years ago in the tournament, had some pretty good moments. Grayson Murphy, another guy who's pretty good offensively. So I'll go with Belmont, sure. Give me the Bruins.
Yeah, I mean, Belmont, they just, when they were in 2019, they won their matchup against Temple in the first 4. So, and even they gave Maryland a run for their money, too, that year. So, I would probably agree with you. Just, I have not watched as many Belmont games as you have, but on the amount that I've seen, they seem like an intriguing team to pick. Now, there's one question I want to ask you about the tournament, but is there anything else you want to get out there before we talk about this again next week?
Well, I actually wanted to talk about how conferences should handle standings, Ryan. I think that's a topic that was hot over the weekend that I think could be a good conversation starter.
Yeah.
But if we're going off of Joey Brackett's list here, it's just going to be a really exciting finish. We got conference tournaments starting this week. We have brackets, Ryan. We have brackets. America East starts up like the 27th, so I guess Saturday. The Horizon League starts up on the 25th, which I believe is Thursday. So we got brackets. It's encouraging. I know you mentioned, fingers crossed. Hopefully we never have to go through that again, but it'll be there's a lot of deep teams and a lot of really good teams. So once they all get to Indianapolis, hoping and willing, it'll be really fun.
So I think you bring up a good point. I'm not going to say where we saw this discussion happening in terms of conference championship seeding, but you go ahead. I know you have some thoughts about it, so you go ahead.
Well, it's not even a hot topic, just the one place we saw it. I mean, there's a couple other leagues that have been debating in a COVID year where not everyone plays the same amount of games. How do you compensate for that in the standings when you seed your conference tournament? Because we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago with the NIT how regular season winners don't even really get an automatic bid into the NIT. So you could win the regular season and not be guaranteed anything. And you could go out there and disappoint like Northern Iowa did a couple years ago as a 1 seed in the Missouri Valley, and you could not get anything. So it brings up the point of how do you get fair seeding? Do you do based off a record or the amount just total wins in conference play or off a win percentage? So in theory, a team, as one of our friends put it, could be like 10 and 100 and be seeded higher than someone who is 9 and 3, just because they played more games and won more games. Ryan, it should be based off a win percentage, or you can kind of, combine the two to some extent. Obviously, that gets a little tricky, but if you sit down and do the math for 2 hours at, Sunday night before the week of your conference tournament, I think that's the best way to do it. But total wins is kind of I don't know. We talk about wins in other sports, right? This is not a very good comparison, but we talk about like pitcher win stats, how that's not really a meaningful thing. But in this year in college basketball, you could be 10 and 6 and the other team could be 9 and 2. But that team that's 9 and 2, that's not a disrespect to them. They probably had a COVID shutdown or one of their opponents had one, so they had to kind of pause for a little bit. And they could be the better team, but they could be the 4 seed just because they played less games. So you shouldn't penalize a team for playing less amount of games. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I don't think I could state it any better. The thing I wanted to ask you about, Matt, so on bracketology at the bottom, they have kind of like a related stories kind of thing. It doesn't relate to 2021 in general, but I saw it and we've never talked about it, so I wanted to bring it up. So the ACC proposed a 346-team college basketball tournament for this season. Now, obviously that was never going to happen. It was never going to work, and I think Lunardi went into that. I did want to ask it from this perspective, though. We've seen it expand from 64 to 68 teams. Do you think the tournament will ever expand again in the future from 68 to some other number?
Yes, I do. By the number, everything's going to expand, right? I think the only tournaments that we have that are kind of capped out are like the NHL and NBA playoffs at 16 teams, because that's like half the league, right? You can't really see them expanding too much after that, except maybe for like a play-in game or something. Who the heck knows? But in terms of like, we saw MLB, everyone wants to expand the postseason in every sport. We're expanding the NFL postseason. We were calling for Major League Baseball to expand the postseason. That's where I think the NBA and NHL have the sweet spot, as their postseasons are pretty beefy as is. College hoops, I think we're at a really good spot right now. And if you want to expand, maybe, but like there's always going to be teams that are really good on the outside of the bubble. But that makes the NIT very important in itself. So I don't know. They'll definitely expand it, though. They expanded it 5 or 6 years ago to put the first 4 in Dayton. So it'll happen again. Everyone wants to make the tournaments bigger. Didn't it make the World Cup bigger, too, for soccer? Didn't I see something like that? I don't know. I'm supposed to be the soccer guy here, but I'm not in soccer mode right now. Everyone wants to make the tournaments bigger, so sure.
All right. Well, if they don't expand it in 20 years, I'm going to pull this audio clip back out, and I'm going to say, ha, ha, ha. I agree, though. I think it's just the nature of everyone expanding everything. It's going to get expanded at some point. So that was college hoops. We are going to be talking college hoops basically every week until the season ends. So that'll be cool. That'll be a nice recurring segment out there, which is nice, have some continuity. The final thing we're going to talk about, we don't have any trivia because we're done with that. As I said, we're not doing Disney Plus and Glenn because he's judging us for something, so we're going to postpone it again. So the final thing we're going to talk about is NASCAR. So it was, that's the last thing that we're going to talk about. Because we're already over an hour. We don't want this to go too long. So NASCAR, They were at the Daytona, so they were at Daytona again yesterday, and they were at the road course. And naturally, if they're at a road course, they can use rain tires and windshield wipers, and they can race in the rain. Of course, naturally, the weather last week couldn't have been this week when they would have been fine. But regardless, it was another fun race, in my opinion. It had another first-time winner. The first time, Matt, that there have been back-to-back first-time winners to start a season since 1950. If you can believe that. That was an interesting stat that I saw. It was Christopher Bell, the rookie for Joe Gibbs Racing, or not the rookie, but the first year guy for Joe Gibbs Racing. He raced for Levine last year, but he won his first ever Cup race, and now he has basically locked himself into the playoffs as well. Bell was, I think, he was probably going to win a race this year. I didn't think it would be at the Daytona road course. I kind of thought someone like Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, I thought they probably would have had that in the bag. But to see Bell chase down Logano at the end of the race was exciting. I mean, Logano built up close to a 4-second lead, but Bell chipped away and he passed him coming to the white flag, which was really fun to watch. I mean, I saw the time difference. I was like, oh, there's no way he's going to make that up. But Logano just didn't have the brakes over the final several laps, and Bell took advantage of that, and he was able to pass Logano. So it's been two solid races, and in terms of winners. I mean, we haven't had any big names win, so it's always exciting when other names win that you're not expecting. We're almost out of Florida. We're done with Daytona. We got Homestead coming up this week, and then we're out of Florida for a while. But yeah, it was cool to see another first-time winner. The race wasn't bad. I enjoyed the race. It's always some things you could complain about, but for the most part, I liked the race. I thought it was a good event.
Well, Ryan, I flipped to it with 12 laps to go. They were in caution, so I flipped out, went back to the PGA Tour, and then the Celtics game. Then I flipped back. Then there was a caution with 9 laps to go, I think. So within 3 laps, something happened. And then I think they finished after the 9, right? A lot of cautions. Not a fan of I've told you this before. As a very, 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 very casual NASCAR fan, I don't like all the yellow flags. Because it takes forever for them to clean stuff up, and then they got to get back in the formation, and then they got to go around a couple times to build up the speed, and then they go. Takes forever. Then you factor in the weather. It looked like a nice day down there towards the end. Again, I tuned in for maybe 2 minutes total. It looked like a nice day, so good for NASCAR. You got in one good weather day. This is the second week in a row that I'm going to criticize their playoff format. It's stupid. You got these 2 guys that are first-time winners, and they're automatically locked into a chance to play for the Cup, which doesn't make too much sense to me. But that's a whole nother topic for another episode. But yeah, cool for that guy, I guess. I watched them during the caution flag, so.
Bell had a lot, I said this in my preview, he was going to have a lot of pressure replacing Eric Jones and Joe Gibbs. He's actually older than Eric Jones, which is a little surprising for a lot of people. But he's backed it up now. He has a win in just the second race of the season, locking himself into the playoffs. And it seems like he'll be able to live up to that pressure that's behind him. Of course, racing for a team like Gibbs, you always have pressure no matter what to perform because they're towards the top for equipment. They're in that kind of big tier of teams. If you look at the point standings, you have the big 3, and not in order, but you have Hamlin, Logano, and Harvick up there at the top. So, hopefully we can get some different names in there this year at the top of the standings. Hopefully it's not just those 3. Again, it'd be nice to kind of mix it up a little bit, but maybe not. Maybe it'll just be those 3 again at the top for the entire season. We'll see. But as I said, they have one more race in Florida. They're now going a little further south to Homestead, Miami, and then they are out of Florida. Then they're going to go out west for a couple of weeks. So that was NASCAR. We're not talking about as much as we did last week. It was just a little taste, a little morsel. So that is that. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about on the podcast this week?
No. I mean, I was going to bring up how your boy Carson Wentz isn't going to get his number 11, but you said we're not going to talk about him until September. So
We're not talking about Carson Wentz until we do our NFL preview. That's the next time we're going to mention his name.
So this time next week, Ryan, we're going to have baseball. We're going to have spring training baseball. I think they start Sunday. Was the other thing I had to mention. We're going to have baseball this time next week, which will be fun. We get to talk about our average to below average baseball teams, Ryan. It'll be great.
Yeah, my team is not average, Matt.
I think we're average. I'd say
my team's not average.
I'd say we both are like we're in the window of like 70 to 80 wins, which is like average to below average. So we're in that window.
We'll talk about it in our previews next month. So, oh, by the way, I guess we can mention this to end the show. The United States women's team, I'm wearing the T-shirt, and they played a game yesterday in the She Believes Cup, and they won over Brazil 2-0. So congratulations. They are the best national team in the United States. So congratulations. I enjoy watching them a lot more than the other side. Megan Rapinoe, whose name is on the back of this. We can try to do this. This is really advanced technique here. I'm really worried that it's not.
I could see it. I could see. Yep. There you go. Good angle. It says Rapinoe, 15.
She scored in the 88th minute, so that was cool. That's why I wore the shirt today, believe it or not. So that was talking soccer. We'll talk. We would like to bring on Dr. Matt Harmon to preview the MLS season, which is going to start up pretty soon. It was his birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, Dr. Matt Harmon. I don't know how old he is, but he looks great for his age, whatever his age is. So that was Best Available Podcast episode 30. We have a lot to look forward to in the coming episodes. We're going to have a lot of awesome guests that we're going to bring on, a lot of great topics, and some more surprises that you got to listen to the entire episode to find out what they are. So I want to thank you for listening to this episode, and we'll catch you guys again next time.